All right, today's video is all about Marionberries. We're going to talk about some ideas with trellises, some care and maintenance, pruning ideas, show you some examples of what I've got going on here in the yard, and hopefully this will inspire you and give you some thoughts about blackberries, Marionberries, thornless blackberries, and that sort of thing. Enjoy today's video. Marionberries. Let's talk about Marionberries. About a year ago, I had the opportunity to get a hold of a few Marionberry plants. I got a pollinator also, a thornless blackberry, and put them in my garden, built a trellis, and this coming summer, I'm getting my first crop, and it is looking amazing. So, I wanted to put a video together to kind of show you some progress along the way, as well as give you some tips for those of you starting out Marionberries, maintaining them, and hopefully this will be inspirational. First off, let me walk you through what's going on behind me. So this is my garden. It's a little suburban garden where I've got 4 of those Marionberries. I've got the thornless blackberry, and they've been in the ground for 11 months. So I think I got them about 11 months ago. Put them in the ground. They were just starting out. So Marionberries are one of those plants that take 2 years to get fruit. So it's on the second year's growth. First year they grow the primocanes. They're growing, they get all trellised up, or if you just let them go loose, they just go. They shoot out like 20 feet long, and then year number 2, those things will kick out some new growth, which have all the berries on them, and then they die off and they're done. So I've got year number 1 finished behind me. Year number 2 is starting out, and let me show you what this thing looks like. All right, so this is the trellis. And for starters, I got some 4x4s. I built 2 layers, so I've got actually 4 wires. Some people do 3 wires. And this is just a braided stainless steel that has this plastic coating over it. I think it's stainless steel, but it's got the plastic coating over there, so it's nice and strong and it runs through. I'll zoom in a moment and show you a little bit more detail, but this is the back side of the yard here. So there's Marionberry. This is actually the thornless blackberry, which is the pollinator. I currently have a little walkway so I can get to the other side easy from here. And then I've got my other 3 Marionberries here. All right, let me explain a little bit about my trellis system for the Marionberries and the thornless blackberry. So I've got these, they're about 6 feet tall and 3.5 feet tall as far as the 2 sets of wires, spaced a little over 24 inches apart on both sides. And most of what I've heard from different people out there with their gardens and their trellis systems, they typically are going about 5 feet and 2 feet. I wanted to go with a little taller so it's easy to pick. I can kind of see what I'm working with. And so kind of my system, this first year what I did is as these things grew, I would tie them off to this bottom wire and then just kind of loop them through as they grew. Every week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I'd come around and just loop it a little farther as they got longer, because these shoots will go 20 feet or more. I mean, even the first year, the root ball was still small and all that, these things went crazy, and they're definitely hitting the 20-foot mark. And now that these are established, it's going to be even more so. But what I do is I take those and I just kind of loop them around. I'll circle them back around, so I start getting lots of the horizontal growth, and it keeps it manageable. I can see it, it's not going all over the place. And so that's kind of what I've done here. And so this is all from this is all first year growth that is now hitting its second year. And so you can see, the older leaves kind of just, they look old, they look ragged, but you can see the new growth full of nice bright green life shooting out, and this is where all the fruits are going to be coming. So it just dawned on me regarding the trellis. I've got my Marionberry trellis I just showed you, but I also have the same concept but a little different style with my raspberries, and it actually would work just as well with blackberries, Marionberries, that sort of thing. So what I have here are my raspberries. I've got my metal T-bar that goes up, and then at the top I've bolted in, it's about 18 inches apart, or 18 inches wide. I've got a bar, just an angle iron that goes through, and that's at the top. And then I have a hole about the 3-foot mark. So 3 feet high and 5 feet tall, 18 inches apart. So I've actually got 3 wires here. I got 2 on the top and 1 in the middle. So what I do with my raspberries is, as those grow up just like the blackberries, I go and I wind them around, and kind of all the way through here. And so those are growing. I'll tip the terminal bud at the end, and every once in a while those will split off, kind of doubling, tripling my fruit. So I used to use the galvanized wire. It's like galvanized fence wire, and that worked well. When I was doing some adjustments to my trellis a while back, I went ahead and switched it to the braided wire that has the plastic coating around it. I like that for, it allows me to kind of re-stretch out if it starts to sag at all and kind of adjust. But the same kind of concept of what I'm doing here. Hopefully that's helpful on the trellis, but generally you want to have kind of a 2-wire thing, so you kind of loop those around. You want to make sure that you got spacing so you can be picking those. They're getting good sunlight, good airflow. And typically you're in that 5 to 6 foot tall with the top wire, kind of that 3 to maybe 3.5 foot tall on the second wire, and go from there. So in talking about trellises, you saw the raspberries, you see the blackberries that I got here, 2 different ideas. So there's one other idea over at my dad's backyard I want to take you over to and just show you how he does it with PVC pipe. Also a couple little modifications he's used for his raspberries and also his blackberries. So check out this. All right, so here's some blackberries. These are the thornless blackberries here. Another trellis system that you could do. So it's basically PVC pipe. And then one thing that's unique about this, he ran the drip system up and over it. So you can see, again, just like the other berries, there's the new growth and there's the old growth. So kind of the timeline process of taking care of these. So you plant them, they're in good organic matter, they're in the sun, they're getting watered, and you got your first year growth of primocanes that are shooting up and going 20 feet or more. Now, before they even hit the 20 feet, one of the things I like to do is I like to cut the terminal bud. So that's the very end. When it hits a certain length, I cut that, and that causes it to split and create double the vines. And then eventually you could cut the terminal of each of those vines and those will double, and you can see how one long cane becomes a whole bunch of growth for next year's fruit, and you actually end up doubling, tripling, quadrupling the fruit you have on there. So what I did here, and I just started this out last year with the first year, and you can do this also, but I'm gonna be doing this especially now that these things are established, is as that vine is going up and it's hitting 6, 8 feet, 9 feet long, I go and I take that tip, and as I'm weaving it through, I'll go ahead and just clip the very end of that tip, and within a week, 2 weeks, you're going to see new growth, and it's going to start splitting, and now all of a sudden that one that was going to go to 20 feet, you've got 2 that are going to be going to 20 feet or so. And so those things are growing. I'm wrapping them around, kind of looping them through the top and the bottom, and as they're getting going, eventually I'll clip them again, and those will split again. And so this one that could have been 20 feet, 25 feet long, this huge vine, now has so many more linear feet of vine, which is going to produce so many more linear feet of fruit. And as you'll see, it'll be really good when it comes time for year number 2 and picking the fruit. So that's one of the little strategies that a lot of people do with blackberry vines to kind of increase your fruit. Obviously, keep the weeds down. You want to make sure that they're not competing for nutrients with the weeds. So one of the things I like to do is I like to keep plenty of compost on there, and then I always go through with a layer of mulch. You can do straw. There's other things you can put on there. You want to be careful about too much wood chips, that if it's going to drain kind of suck the nitrogen out of the soil. So especially around the plant itself, keep those wood chips a little bit away from there. But so the mulch I like to use, it's a mix of compost, some bark, and some wood product that's kind of put together. I get this from a local garden place, and just get a trailer full of that, put around a lot of my yard, and does a real good job at keeping the weeds down, keeping things moist through the summer, and just beautiful. So year number 2, now as soon as these things behind me fruit, and I'm picking the fruit, they're all done, as soon as those canes have no more fruit and they're done, I, as soon as possible, want to go through and cut those, get those things off. I'll cut them in pieces, get rid of them, put them in the yard waste, because I don't want any more nutrients and energy and all that going to the old growth that's never going to produce anything again. It's just going to die off and be done. I want to get rid of that, so any new energy can be going towards that first year growth, keeping those things going, so that year number 2 next year I'll have further growth. So that's kind of the idea here. It's very similar to raspberries, for a lot of raspberries, where the year number 2 you have the fruit, and as soon as those things produce the fruit and they're picked and everything, you get rid of the old vines, and then the next year's vines will continue to grow and get energy. So some similar concepts there. Let's see. And I think the last thing, this isn't so much about the fruit, it's just the beauty. There's nothing like seeing a trellis with beautiful fruit growing on there, vines and all that. So put a little extra energy, and maybe even cost if you can, into a trellis system that looks nice, because it does become kind of a yard feature. So I've learned that. I've done the metal stakes with wire. That works awesome. In fact, I still use that for some of my vegetables, the beans and the peas and things like that. But just taking it up another level adds a little bit more kind of beauty to the yard. So This is part 1. I'm going to come back with another video a little later, show you what these things look like as the fruit's going through there, when you can see where the new growth and kind of the system on how I do that. So tune back in. There'll be another video coming up about Marionberries part 2, and hopefully that'll be helpful. If you have any questions, thoughts, ideas, anything that stands out to you, put those in the comments. It's helpful for me and helpful for others to know what's going on. And again, if you like this video, if you want to see more of this kind of thing, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and have a good life.